The morning sun spilled across the polished marble floors of Aurora Tower, but its warmth never reached the basement where Caden Holt pushed his mop down a silent hallway. His life had narrowed itself into 3 repeating truths: he was a single father, a janitor, and a man quietly drowning in the memory of dreams he once had but no longer dared to chase. Yet fate, strange, sharp, and unpredictable, was waiting just a few floors above him, wrapped inside the broken life of a woman the world feared more than it admired. And on this particular day, their paths were about to crash into each other with the force of something life-changing. If you believe in kindness, courage, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Midnight Reports. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. Caden was sweeping the 17th floor terrace when he heard the mechanical hum of an electric wheelchair. He didn't look up at first. Executives had their own world and janitors were practically ghosts to them. But the sound stopped too close to ignore, and when he lifted his head, he saw her, Novalee Grayston, the billionaire CEO known both for her empire and for the cold stare that made seasoned board members tremble. Her long black hair was tied in a severe knot, her sharp features carved with the kind of exhaustion no makeup could hide. The tabloids said she'd been paralyzed from the waist down after a mountain crash 6 months ago, and though the world sent her flowers, none stayed long enough to see them wilt. She caught him staring and raised an eyebrow. But instead of looking away, Caden nodded to her like she was just another person passing by. That simple gesture made her blink, as if she couldn't remember the last time someone looked at her without fear, pity, or expectation. Over the next few days, she kept appearing near the terrace, always at the same time, always in silence. Caden wasn't sure whether she came for the air or if she simply needed a place where no one treated her like she was broken. He never asked. She never explained. But the quiet between them wasn't empty, it was strangely comforting. One afternoon, while he was wiping railings, Novalee's chair jerked as she tried to adjust herself. Her hand slipped, and she dropped a sleek tablet to the floor. Before he could think, Caden stepped forward and picked it up, noticing the tremble in her fingers, not from weakness, but from frustration layered with pride thick as stone. "You're not bothering me," he said softly after handing it back. "Everyone needs help sometimes." She narrowed her eyes, almost offended, but the spark in them flickered with something more fragile. "Help is complicated," she muttered. Caden knew that feeling too well. When his wife died, people helped for a week. After that, life moved on, except his didn't. Even now, raising his 9-year-old son, Rowan, alone while juggling night shifts and overdue bills, he felt like a man climbing out of mud with no rope. The next day, she surprised him by asking, "Do you ever get tired of being down there?" She gestured vaguely, meaning the lower floors, the invisible life. "Every day," he answered truthfully. But getting tired doesn't mean stopping. For the first time, Novalee looked at him not as a janitor, but as someone who understood the weight she carried. She confessed, almost in a whisper, that despite every doctor, every therapy, every machine, nothing had changed. "They think I will walk again," she said, her voice cracking in a way she quickly tried to hide. "Sometimes I think they're right." Caden didn't pity her, didn't soften his voice. "Then let's prove them wrong." She stared at him, stunned, and then, shockingly, laughed, a sharp disbelieving sound. "You? A janitor? You'll help me walk?" "Yes," he said simply. "I will." Her laughter broke mid-breath, collapsing into silence. Something raw flickered in her eyes, not mockery this time, but a wounded longing, the kind that comes from wanting hope and being terrified of it. "Why would you care?" she whispered. "Because someone once cared enough to help me stand when I fell," Caden replied. "Now it's my turn." From that day, their unlikely journey began. He wasn't a doctor, but he had spent countless nights learning physical therapy techniques online for Rowan, who once struggled with severe muscle tension as a toddler. He knew enough to guide Novalee through simple exercises, small movements she had long stopped believing she could do. Their sessions happened early mornings on the terrace, hidden from judging eyes. She pushed through pain that made her teeth clench, through tears she refused to acknowledge, through moments where she yelled at him for believing in something she no longer dared imagine. But Caden stayed steady. He encouraged her when her legs twitched for the first time. He celebrated tiny progress she insisted was meaningless. He listened when she finally admitted she feared being worthless without power, mobility, or the image the world worshipped. As the days passed, Rowan joined them on weekends. The boy had a gentle nature, bright eyes, and a way of making Novalie smile in a way no shareholder ever could. He would sit beside her and draw pictures of her future walking adventures, mountains, beaches, places he said she could go once she was brave on her feet again. She pretended to scoff, but her eyes softened every time. Slowly, impossibly, her strength returned. One bright afternoon with clouds drifting lazily across the sky, Caden stood behind her as she held onto the terrace railing. He didn't touch, didn't guide, just stayed close enough to catch her if she fell. Novalie closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, and shifted her weight. For a moment, nothing happened. Then her right leg trembled, lifted, and moved forward an inch. Just 1 inch. But it was enough to make her gasp as if she'd touched sunlight. She broke. Tears streamed down her cheeks, dripping onto the railing as she covered her face with her hands. Caden wanted to speak, but she shook her head, crying harder, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming miracle of a step she'd been told she'd never take again. "You kept your promise," she whispered when she could finally breathe. "No," he said softly. "You kept going. That was all you." News eventually reached her doctors, then her board, then the world. But long before the headlines, long before reporters begged for interviews, Novalie found something she had lost long before the accident: her humanity, her ability to feel, to trust, to hope again. And she owed it not to a specialist, but to a janitor who refused to see her as untouchable. Weeks later, when she finally stood on her own for several long, steady seconds with Caden and Rowan cheering behind her, the moment felt like a sunrise breaking open inside her soul.